This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Highland Park Planet on January 5th, 2024, and was posted on Borough Hall website at www.hbborough.com and on the bulletin board of Borough Hall, 221 South 5th Avenue in Highland Park, New Jersey, and has remained continuously posted as required by law. Now we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Foster.
Yes.
Councilwoman Canavera.
Here.
Councilman George. Councilman Hale.
Here.
Council President Hirsch.
Here.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan. Councilman Kostelnik.
Here.
Special Counsel Bauman.
Here.
Borough Administrator Hoover. Here.
And now we're going to move on to discussion item. The first one up is 810 South 2nd Avenue. And I'm going to ask our Borough Clerk to give us an Borough Administrator, sorry. I demoted you or promoted you, one of the two, sorry.
And I'm going to pass along just like a quick visual. I meant to get them in front of you before we sat down and I was running late. So really briefly, 810 North 2nd Avenue is a single parcel on the north side of town on North 2nd, kind of wedged between the residential area near Cleveland Avenue and Wayside Drive, which is the kind of corridor road in the overlook project on that part of town next to where the railroad line is. And it first came on my radar a while back when it went for sale, and then it's a lab building, I should mention, on the north side, which kind of is a legacy from kind of the light industrial corridor that kind of used to be in that area. It came to my attention again, probably 6 months plus ago, probably longer, because the county reached out to me, their economic development and their real estate folks, because they had looked at the property because they had been desperately looking for some, either it was lab or life sciences or some sort of space, which she thought it was a kind of a strange property and brought it to my attention. She had said it was not adequate for what they were looking for, and the reality was it was pretty out of date, was kind of the gist of what she told me, and I kind of left it at that. And then flash forward, we were approached again by this time a couple of investors from town who had an idea for an adaptive reuse for the site. I met with them, I listened to kind of what their thoughts were, and I'll talk a little bit more about kind of what we discussed. And then they posted an escrow, and so to cover the cost for our planner to meet with them, Chris Cosenza and I met, and we went through kind of some ideas for the site. Where we landed on was kind of an adaptive reuse of the building for residential. It's a residential area, making somewhere in the order of about 5 apartments might be possible. This was based on a very kind of cursory look at the site and what we thought would be what it could yield without really making much change to the limits of the building. So I put my head together with Chris to see, well, right now it's not zoned for that. It's not zoned for a lab, nor is it zoned for that. And I talked with Chris, I talked with our special counsel Bauman about ways we might address this site, because one way or another we're looking at either a continuation of a non-conforming use if a lab were to come in there, but frankly it's been on the market quite a while, I don't see that happening, or if someone wanted to do something different like this adaptive reuse, it would be a variance. They'd have to go for it. The zoning board, and they don't have any certainty about what the outcomes would be. And so we kind of landed on the redevelopment option. The thought was to do a small scale redevelopment plan that would accommodate adaptive reuse of the building for residential as a possible way to move forward. So I brought that idea to the Economic Development Committee. There seemed to be some general support, although I'll let them speak for themselves. So I'm bringing it to the group now because I think it makes sense. I don't know if Joe wants to weigh in at all, but I think we have an opportunity to enhance kind of a deteriorating site, provide additional housing, do adaptive use, which is kind of something we haven't done, at least not in a long time in Highland Park, provide a different type of housing option and also an affordable housing option in this neighborhood. So on a very small scale.
It's only 5,000 square feet.
It's a small building. It's a 5,000 square feet. So just wanted to use this opportunity to kind of discuss this, because basically, if we don't want to go this route, I'd rather know sooner than later. But if we're interested in pursuing this, we could engage LRK to assist with the plan, and we could, and we would notify the neighbors, and we would go through a normal redevelopment, albeit we think a very targeted and streamlined one because of the scope of the project's relatively small, and advance it that way. And I have no way to predict if these people we spoke to will end up purchasing the property, but I actually think it's a good idea, and it would be beneficial to the borough to consider this option. And I think we can take it on, and it would be a nice example of a small neighborhood scale project in the midst of some of our other projects that we're trying to advance. So that's about all I had to present, probably more than you wanted.
No, it was good, because when they reached out to me, I decided I thought that you should have a conversation with them. And Councilmember Hale, do you have anything that you want to add to this?
No, I would just say that this is sort of we've talked about doing this for a while. It's been part of the master plan. It's doing infill development along this sort of lines. It's a manageable project. It's a building that would likely sit there and do nothing unless there's some movement on it. And so I think this gives us an opportunity to create something out of an empty shell. And I think that's a good thing. We got to be doing that. And it fits with the neighborhood. I think that's the other point, is that this is a housing neighborhood, and so it fits with a housing area. And it would be subject to our affordable housing requirements if there's a number of units, and so that we at least probably get one, but it's one is better than none. So I think it's a good project.
Terry, could you just explain why, just like a normal application where they would go through zoning, can you explain the benefit of doing a mini redevelopment?
I guess the main benefit I see is if someone makes an application to the zoning board, which if you want to do anything that doesn't conform with the underlying zoning, that's where you end up, is we don't know what they'll propose. This is one group that's proposed that. Some investors won't want the risk, because they could get through that whole process. It may not be one and done meeting wise. And so it could also deter reinvestment if they're reliant upon, and they don't feel like they have the support of the community behind the project they want to do. There's no real vision, there's no, for that building in any of our plans right now, because it really doesn't conform with what's around it or the zoning that's there. So to me, the benefit is also we get a little more control over the final product. There'll be a kind of a mini redeveloper agreement, so we can hold them a little more accountable to what our expectations are, and whoever it ends up being. So this is regardless of who ends up with the property. And it would also basically straighten out what I think is kind of a non-conforming property in the town, and maybe nudge it toward a better use. Joe, would you add anything to that?
No, I mean, we call it scattered sites, in the redevelopment world. So this is sort of a prime example of a scattered site. It's an outlier in an otherwise residential area. We would have a relatively simple redevelopment plan, which, as I understand it, doesn't change the footprint and fully parks on site. So it's really controversial. Gets an affordable housing unit, and then we'll have some controls that be created on things like commencement, completion, design standards that are beyond the plan.
And that will all be discussed as part of the redevelopment plan. We're not here to decide those things now, but that's what we would look to include in the plan that would for you and go before the planning board, and circle. It does seem like a lot of steps to take for such a small thing, but it probably is the most strategic way to move it forward.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just had a question. Terry, do you know about how long this property has been vacant?
I don't want to, I am 99% sure it's over 2 years at this point, but it could be longer. I did look at some of the Google map pictures and I thought I saw the realtor thing as far back as 2021, but I didn't confirm that. So that's my best guess, but it has been a while.
Okay. I think no other bites, no other interest.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I haven't reached out to the broker. But I can only assume it's been sitting there for a reason. It's an outlier. And from what I understand, it's not like state-of-the-art lab space, so it's not attracting what it was meant to do. So, we're looking at maybe a change of use is appropriate.
There was an interest quite a while back, I would say back in 2019, but
so
for the
I don't know if
property,
it was
and then it
listed
just
then or
went
not
away.
there. I don't remember.
As Terry says, it's a non-conforming use in that particular area. So
sure.
Whoever wanted was to create a lab or office space, it wouldn't fit.
I've checked it out myself, and I've seen it does not fit in with the rest of the neighborhoods.
Just like a sore thumb.
It's pretty unpresupposing. It's funny. It's just there, and
I never realized.
Yeah, that was when I said, "Wow, that is interesting."
Councilmember Hale?
No.
Oh, you're good. Okay. Anyone else?
So what I was hoping, if there's general support, I have a draft proposal from LRK, which I can circulate, that I'd like to put on the agenda for an upcoming council meeting with your permission.
Yes.
So I'll circulate that around and we'll pencil that in.
Okay.
All right.
Council members?
Yep.
Okay. And then we're going to move on to track C. And then basically track C is a host of updates that we're going to provide. And Terry, I'm going to let you jump in because the reason why Terry jumps in a lot is because she's the economic development person in the borough for the borough. So we refer to her a lot on these projects. So she, in her part-time, full-time position, this is what she does. Okay.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a brief one as well, and it's not major news flashes, but it's more to pick up the thread from where we left last year, because I know you have said numerous times, as is the rest of the governing body, we're working toward a public meeting to talk about track C, and I just wanted to let everybody know that is still our intention. We had hoped to get that done last year, but we hadn't made sufficient progress on design issues, but now we have made some strides and we're trying to get this done in the first quarter of the year, this meeting. But to do that, we need updated renderings that we're all confident represents kind of what we think is workable for the site. So we're still waiting on some different perspectives from the developer. Also, looking at that same public meeting, we would like to present publicly any amendments that might be needed to the redevelopment plan in order to effectuate that plan. So we're trying to go through the designs and identify any conflicts with our existing plan. Hopefully they're minimal, but that would be something we want to present at that community meeting as well. And so we just need a little more time. And lastly, we're on day 60 of waiting for a response from NJDOT from our last submission on the South 3rd Avenue pedestrian plaza proposal and the street intersection permit specifically, supposedly a 90-day turnaround. So we're basically a month out, and we'd really like to have that as part of that community meeting so that we're kind of presenting a full package to the community about what's going to happen where and so forth. Not going to say we're having it all figured out for the community meeting, but at least we know we've got the permit lined up and we know where we're going. So things are coming together. I have no reason to feel pessimistic about the permit, but it's just a slow process. And but hopefully this might be, I think, one of our last back and forths with them on what we submitted. So, so that was my track C update. I don't know if I left anything out.
No, you didn't leave anything out. The commitment of having an open meeting to the public and in a large enough space where everybody can take a look at the renderings and what have you. That still holds. We're hoping that this will be done in the first quarter of this year. So we are very much on track and very much looking forward to a community meeting where everyone will have an opportunity to see the plans that we're looking at, and we can have some healthy discussions. That's it. Anyone else? Okay, no questions. All righty. Okay, resolution 2024-01 executive session reading. Number one will be redevelopment negotiations on 420 to 424 Raritan Avenue. Number two, redevelopment negotiations on 433 Cleveland Avenue. May I have a motion to adopt or adjourn resolution 2024-01?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. And with that said, roll call.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Council President Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Pistonik?
Yes.
Okay. And now it's time for public comments. Each session has 3 minutes, but you may speak on any topic. The borough clerk will monitor the time and offer a 30-second warning when she indicates 3 minutes has lapsed. The session will wrap up by 9 p.m. Borough clerk will monitor the time and indicate when the 3 minutes have lapsed. She will give you a warning when there is 30 seconds remaining. There will be a hard stop at the 3-minute mark, and to make sure everyone has time to speak. As a reminder, I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement if it does not adhere to the 3 minutes provided, or if the statement is disruptive to the orderly conduct of the public meeting, it is disruptive or not on topic, and is not relevant to the governing body. Comments from the members of the public attending in person will be heard first, followed by those attending on Zoom. On Zoom, you can press either the raise hand button or *9 on your keypad. And when to raise your hand, you can press the *6 button to speak. We'll take questions from members of the public at this time, if there's any. Seeing that there's none, is anyone on Zoom?
I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, Mayor.
Okay.
Oh, hand keeps popping up and down. Give me a second, Mayor. Okay, I do see a hand raised, and for the record, we have 11 attendees on the Zoom. The hand that I see up is Jessica Hunson. If you could just state your name and confirm it's you.
Thank you. Good evening. This is Jessica Hunston. I live on Montgomery Street. Thank you, Terry, for the overview of the 810 North 2nd Avenue place. I came just a minute or two late, so you might have answered this. But what is the current? I have a couple of questions. What is the current zoning? I was just looking at it, and I noticed that the property had been listed in September, I believe, and that it's marked as contingent now, and that it had, I'm looking at the listing, and it seems like it's already being kind of sold as a redevelopment opportunity, perfect for single family homes, townhomes, or stacked townhouses. So I think one of my questions is, what is the current zoning? And then you mentioned the benefits to the borough for having it be a part of a redevelopment plan, but can you talk about what the benefit is to the owner or whoever kind of approached you regarding this?
I'll take your first question. One of the current zoning, oh, sorry, Mayor, with your permission. Sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
The current zoning, that's actually an interesting question. One of them that we will answer more definitively when we finish the study, because our zoning map shows it as PURD 1 or 2, which is the zone that the Overlook, not Overlook, what's the other one? The one that's right next door, development with Wayside. Pulte Crossings, thank you, but then when we started looking at the ordinances to answer that very question, there was a debate, but I believe that it could potentially be R2, depending on, we have to actually do a look back on the various ordinances to answer that. But either way, what's there does not conform. The lab building, the office building, whatever you want to call it, doesn't conform to either of those zones. So that's something I stumbled into. I was relying on the zoning map, and when I saw it was the PRD zone, and so we started doing a kind of a due diligence look back, and we stumbled into that, and we have to do a little more work in the code book to make sure we nail down the use more precisely for future. As to the benefit, I don't know specifically what the benefit would be, other than, in my mind, and I could defer to others, potentially the attorney, is they get a little more surety as to what they can do with that property should they buy it. But the marketing, it sounds like they may have overstated what the uses are that they can do there, if what you're reading was accurate. And then what we get are some of the benefits I mentioned, as well as we also get a little more assurance as to what gets built there, and if it, you know, and a little more control over the outcome.
And if may I ask,
you want to add anything, our attorney?
I was just going to, Terry, I think what we're saying is we think it might be townhouse, like the multi.
We believe it's part of the planned urban redevelopment zone, whatever that, but in looking at it, it may not be, but either way, I'm not sure as of right you could do any of the things you just said, Jessica, but we certainly, before we do the redevelopment plan, will nail down the answer to that question.
May I ask just one more question, because I missed it at the beginning? Can you tell me who approached you regarding the redevelopment plan? Was it the owner or the prospective buyer? Or because it does seem like it is in, like, it's being purchased at this time.
It was someone.
It was not the owner. It was someone, a local resident in town.
Okay.
Prospective purchase.
Hmm?
Prospective purchase.
A prospective, yeah, that lives here in town.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. I do see another hand there. It's Mary Forsberg. Let me unmute you. Mary, could you confirm it's you?
Hi, Mary Forsberg, 317 Dennison Street. I came in a little bit late too, and I wasn't sure what you were talking about when you were talking about a redevelopment plan. And I thought you were talking about the 433 Cleveland, which I guess maybe you're not. So I'm curious about 433 Cleveland because it seems to have paid no taxes since 2008. And it's listed, it has two separate listings in the tax forms, and one of them is as a pumping station. And so I'm curious, what is a pumping station? What does it do? And who owns it? Why doesn't it pay taxes?
Would you like me to answer?
Our administrator.
I'm not sure what records you looked up. 433 Cleveland Avenue, we have an existing redevelopment plan and agreement. It's where the school is being built. And we'll be discussing a matter regarding that in executive session later. That's how it's listed on the agenda. And the pumping station is borough property. There is a bit of mechanical. It's actually borough property, but maintained by the MCUA. That's a fun fact I only recently learned. So that's why it pays no taxes. I
mean, 433 Cleveland Avenue, I went down and looked at it. There's no land there. There's nothing there.
It's the big school.
It's the school that's being built over there.
I mean, 431 is the school, or 431 is the school, but what is 433? Is that
they've consolidated some properties, Mary, and the matter we're discussing is related to the school.
So it will be tax exempt along with the school. We
have not discussed that as yet. We have not discussed that. We're gonna be having a conversation later on to discuss
433 shows up in the tax rolls as a pumping station in one place, and as some property that has paid no taxes since 2008, I think. So is it a pumping station or what is it? It's not very much.
It's the school, Mary.
No. It's a tax exempt area. And if you are looking at 431, I believe that's a pumping station which has a public easement on it.
No, 433 is a pumping station.
From all indication and what we know, 433 is the school that's being built. It's just
Well,
about completed, actually.
Well, you better check your tax records because that's not what the tax records show.
Thank you, Mary. We'll do that.
Anyone right? Let's see. No other hands raised, Mayor.
Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night. Thank you all.
We won't take any action when we return.
No action will be taken.